This is a story about love and what it does to us. Love inspires us to dream bigger than ourselves, to sacrifice without a second thought, and to see beauty in the smallest gestures. It floods our brains with chemicals that make us smile at nothing, buy flowers on a whim, gaze into eyes until the world fades away, care with every fiber of our being, and sometimes feel a jealousy so fierce it burns through reason and turns the heart into a battlefield. But in the gentle hills and hidden roads surrounding Florence, Italy, one of the world's most romantic cities, love took a dark and deadly turn that would last for more than half a century. A phantom stalked the night, hunting young couples who sought nothing more than a few private moments in their parked cars under the stars. He did not simply kill, he hunted the women among them with a special, savage fury that left police baffled and an entire region paralyzed with fear. Armed with a Beretta pistol and a knife he wielded with terrifying precision after the shots, he left almost no clues behind. No fingerprints, no reliable witnesses who survived, no clear motive beyond a burning rage aimed squarely at the women. 8 attacks spread over decades, lives shattered in an instant, families destroyed, and the killer was never caught. The Florentine Monster disappeared into history, his identity still one of Italy's most haunting unsolved mysteries. If you are as captivated by true stories of mystery, passion turned to horror, and the shadows that hide in plain sight as I am, please do me a favor right now. Hit that like button to show your support. Subscribe to the channel so you never miss another deep dive into real events that chill the soul, and leave a comment below with your own theories about who this monster could have been, or how he evaded justice for so long. Share this video with friends and family who enjoy gripping narratives that make you think and feel. Turn on the notification bell to stay with us on this journey. Your engagement truly makes these stories possible. Now, let us travel back together to the warm summer night in 1968, when the nightmare first began. A night that would send ripples of terror through the years ahead. It was August 21st, 1968, just after 1 o'clock in the morning in a quiet suburb on the outskirts of Florence. The air was still warm from the day, carrying the faint scent of cypress trees and earth. A white Alfa Romeo sat parked in a secluded spot near an old cemetery, its windows slightly fogged from the heat of 2 people seeking a stolen moment of intimacy away from the world. Inside were a young mother and her lover. In the back seat or close by was her small son, a boy named Natalino, perhaps drifting in and out of sleep, unaware of the danger creeping toward them. The couple, lost in their own world, never heard the soft footsteps approaching from the darkness. Suddenly, the night exploded with gunfire. Several shots rang out in quick succession, shattering the silence and ending 2 lives in a spray of violence. The woman, the boy's mother, lay half-clothed and lifeless. Her lover was also gone. The killer then reached into the car, pulled the terrified child out, and carried him through the night to a nearby village, leaving him at the door of a farmer's house before vanishing once more into the shadows. When the police arrived at the home of Stefano Mele, the boy's father, they found him hurriedly packing suitcases as though preparing to escape the country. A simple paraffin test on his hands revealed traces of gunpowder, placing him at the scene of the shooting. The young boy Natalino, still in shock but able to speak, told investigators he had seen his father holding a pistol. Stefano Mele eventually confessed to the double murder, but tried to shift some blame by claiming he had received help from a man named Salvatore Vinci. When Vinci was brought in for questioning, he broke down in tears, vehemently denying any involvement and insisting that Stefano had acted completely alone. The boy initially mentioned other names in his confusion, but later corrected himself, clearly identifying his own father as the gunman. Stefano Mele was arrested, tried, and sentenced to 14 years in prison for the jealous rage that had driven him to kill his wife and her lover that summer night. At the time, many believed the case was closed, a tragic but isolated act of domestic violence. They could not have been more wrong. The real horror was only just beginning, and it would soon bear the signature of something far more organized and monstrous. Just a few years later, in September 1974, the nightmare returned with even greater brutality. An engaged couple, Stefana Tini and her fiancé Pasquale, had spent a joyful evening at a local disco, dancing and laughing, full of plans for their future together. After the music ended, They drove to a quiet spot outside the city, parking their car in a grove where many young lovers went for privacy. They never made it home. A cyclist passing by the next morning noticed something wrong and alerted authorities. Inside the car, the couple lay dead from gunshot wounds. Stefana had been pursued as she tried to flee, shot from behind, and then subjected to a horrific and deliberate mutilation, with a knife focused on the lower part of her body. The attack showed the same cold efficiency mixed with explosive rage toward the woman. Ballistics confirmed the bullets came from a Beretta pistol, the same type used in the 1968 killings. There were no fingerprints, no useful footprints, and no one had seen or heard anything in the isolated location. The city of Florence woke up to headlines screaming about the return of violence against young lovers. Fear began to spread like wildfire through the streets and hills. Couples started avoiding secluded parking spots. Parents warned their daughters about the dangers of nighttime drives. The monster had announced himself again, and this time the pattern was clearer. He targeted happy, loving pairs and reserved his most vicious acts for the women. The pattern repeated with chilling regularity. In June 1981, another engaged couple, Carmela Nucci and Giovanni, enjoyed a night out at a disco before driving to a grove for some time alone. They too were found shot through the windshield of their car, their bodies bearing the now familiar marks of post-shooting knife attacks concentrated on the woman. Later that same year, Susanna Cambi and Stefano Baldi met a similar fate. 11 bullets were fired into their car in a frenzy, and the woman again suffered the brutal knife work that had become the killer's gruesome trademark. Witnesses described a red Alfa Romeo or similar vehicle in the vicinity, but it vanished before anyone could get a plate number or clear description of the driver. The psychological profile emerging from the crimes painted a picture of an organized killer who chose his moments carefully, struck on moonless nights, wore gloves, used the same weapon, and disappeared without panic. He seemed to know the best secluded spots around Florence, suggesting he was either a local or someone very familiar with the area. The rage directed at the women hinted at deep personal wounds, perhaps rejection or betrayal in his own romantic past, twisted into a hatred for any couple displaying affection and happiness. By 1982, the terror had deepened. In one particularly heartbreaking case, Antonella Greeley and Paolo Manar, childhood friends who had recently reconnected and begun a tender romance, parked on a dirt road outside the city. They were sitting in their car when the killer emerged from the trees or shadows without warning. Shots were fired, shattering the headlights and wounding Paolo in the arm. Antonella screamed as the attacker approached. In a desperate bid to escape, Paolo tried to reverse the car, but it crashed. The killer walked up to the wrecked vehicle and fired point blank, finishing them both before using his knife on the young woman in the same savage manner. The community was reeling. Every new attack made the previous ones feel like part of a deliberate campaign against love itself. Police task forces were formed and dissolved. The same Beretta kept appearing in ballistics reports. The same lack of forensic evidence frustrated everyone involved. Florence, the city of art and romance, had become a place where young people looked over their shoulders and thought twice before parking anywhere private. The attacks continued into 1983, when a German couple parked in their car became the next victims. The man and woman were found shot, and this time the killer's rage extended to tearing apart a pornographic magazine left in the vehicle, as if the very idea of intimacy enraged him further. Again, the Beretta was the murder weapon, and the woman's body showed the characteristic knife mutilation. In 1984, another young couple, Pia Ronti and Claudio Stefano, who had heard the rumors about the mysterious killer haunting the area, still took a chance and parked one evening. They were discovered later with multiple gunshot wounds. Pia had been pulled from the car and subjected to over 100 strikes from the knife, a level of ferocity that shocked even hardened detectives. The investigation by this point had compiled a detailed psychological portrait. The killer was likely between 25 and 40 years old, physically strong and aggressive, possibly with a background involving hunting or the outdoors, given his comfort in rural and semi-rural spots. He was organized, forensically aware, and chose victims who represented happy, loving relationships, exactly the kind of happiness he himself may have been denied. The final known attack came in 1985, when a French tourist couple celebrating their anniversary camped in a tent in a wooded area near Florence. They were attacked while undressed and vulnerable inside their tent. Shots were fired, and when the young woman tried to shield her partner, the killer chased the man who attempted to run, stabbing him repeatedly before returning to mutilate the woman in the now familiar way. In a macabre touch, an envelope containing a fragment of the victim's body was later sent to authorities. The tourism industry in the region took another heavy blow. By this point, the case had become legendary in Italian criminal history. As the attacks mounted, investigators built a profile that has stood the test of time. The Florentine Monster was an organized serial killer who planned his crimes meticulously. He knew when and where couples parked. He approached calmly, shot with accuracy using a Beretta pistol, then vented his rage on the female victim with a knife in a way that suggested sexual frustration or deep misogyny rooted in personal trauma. He wore gloves, left minimal evidence, and chose locations with multiple exit routes. He operated on moonless nights to avoid being seen. The consistency across attacks pointed to a single perpetrator or a very small group working together. Attention eventually turned to several key suspects. Stefano Mille, the man convicted in the 1968 case, remained a person of interest. The Vinci family, particularly Francesco Vinci and his brothers, came under heavy scrutiny. Francesco was detained after one attack when a car linked to the murders was found hidden near his property. The most intriguing suspect was Pietro Pacini, a local hunter and taxidermist in his 60s with a documented history of violence. His farm was searched, and investigators found shell casings that matched the caliber used in the murders. He was put on trial in 1994, but problems with the prosecution case led to his acquittal. Pacini died in 1998 under mysterious circumstances involving poisoning, and a sum of money was later discovered in his possession. Another name that surfaced was Francesco Narducci, a wealthy nobleman with a passion for shooting clubs. He owned a red car similar to vehicles seen near some crime scenes. His death added another layer of mystery, but concrete proof remained elusive. Despite the arrests, the trials, the searches, and the mountain of circumstantial evidence, the Florentine Monster was never conclusively identified or convicted for the full series of crimes. The killings stopped after the mid-1980s, bringing cautious relief to the people of Florence and Tuscany, though the scars remain to this day. The story of the Florentine Monster is more than a catalog of terrible crimes. It is a window into the darkest possibilities of the human heart. Here was a killer who seemed to target the very essence of love and connection. He turned the most ordinary and beautiful act of seeking privacy and intimacy into a scene of slaughter. The special fury reserved for the women suggests a profound wound, perhaps from a failed relationship, a rejection, or a lifetime of perceived betrayals that festered into hatred. Yet he was discussing and controlled enough to evade one of the most intensive manhunts in Italian history. Florence itself changed because of him. The city of Dante, Michelangelo, and endless romance became associated with fear and unsolved mystery. Even today, some still feel a shiver remembering the stories. As we come to the end of this dark journey through one of Italy's most enduring mysteries, we are left with more questions than answers. What we do know is that love, for all its beauty and power, can sometimes awaken monsters we never imagined existed, both in others and potentially within ourselves if we let darkness take root. May God protect you,